Today's guest is Larissa Soehn, who is an international best-selling author and CEO of Next Page Publishing. As the company's founder and accidental author, Larissa's mission is to help her fellow superwomen write a book that sells and grows their business while crafting a legacy. As a mom to a beautiful little girl, her goal is to set an example for her daughter that they can both be proud of. And also this year, she'll be competing in the 2024 National Championship for Jigsaw Puzzles. So that is pretty cool. Haven't read that in a bio before, so maybe you want to start with that. All right. How does one
Yeah.
get into jigsaw puzzle championships?
Yeah, it's very, very easily because it's not a very competitive sport. I will be totally honest. It's more of a for fun and so that I could tell people that I did it than anything else. But yeah, no, I'm training. I've got a 1,000 piece puzzle on the back table right now, and I sit down for blocks of 2 hours and see how much I can get done. And to have been tracking my time to see. I'm not competitive. I'm just doing this for fun. But it's one of those things when you tell people, they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going for."
That is pretty cool. So yeah, I think whatever, like, it's competitive, not competitive, it's big or small, I think that's pretty cool. So
Well,
kudos
the
to you for
prize
that.
money is like $50. So like it's not like I need to spend a lot of time on this, but it
Okay,
is
but this is
wicked
about
cool.
bragging rights. This isn't about $50. It's about
That's
bragging rights.
exactly
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, I know you're here for different reasons. That was just a cool anecdote. So yeah, please, if there's anything else about like your bio that you wanted to add for context, but by all means do so.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Larissa Soehn. I am the CEO of Next Page Publishing. It's a publishing house dedicated to entrepreneurs, helping them really take their business to the next level, take their authority to the next level. And part of my origin story is how I did that on accident and how I don't want other people to do it on accident because I missed out on a lot of opportunity and a lot of potential with my first book that I've been able to recoup through partnering with people in my industry in my following books. But there's so much power in a book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, whether it's aligned to our business or it's just our story. There's so much power, and first time authors just they get swept up in the idea of writing the book that they don't see the potential of what actually happens after it's written, of what needs to go into it to make it that perfect brand item that stands out and has people calling you thinking that you're a celebrity in their head because they've spent 10 hours reading your stuff and they're so ingrained in you and you've never met this person and they're coming to you going, "Oh my gosh, I read your book." Like that's what we want to get people to. And I didn't get that with my first book. Like I said, I accidentally wrote it. I accidentally published it. Everything I did was like, "Whoops, I guess here we go." And and authors deserve better than that. And when they do have better, they do better.
Love it. Well, it seems like you are in a very supporting role with regards to helping people make their dreams come true. And like, oh, like it's not a small feat to write a book. So I can see how there's also even how you speak. There's a lot of love in like what it is that you do and the people that you support. So that's awesome. And
Mhm.
now that you're here today to flip the script on that and be supported, what can I support you with the most today?
Yeah, so my business has been around for almost 3 years now. And in the first, like you and I actually we connected in my first year of business. And then I went through your script and I was like, okay, I'm not a fit yet. I'm not at $100,000. I don't have a program that's selling consistently enough to say that it's a successful program, that it's a good offer. And I had to go through the growing pains of the first couple of years. And now, 2.5 years in, we're hitting consistent revenue. Things are good. The team has grown from just one. I'm not a solopreneur anymore. I'm a team of seven. And things are going really, really well. And I'm starting to work with people that are elevating their brand. And so one of the biggest things I have is I do what I teach. I am constantly writing books. I am constantly growing my business. I am constantly investing in coaching and things like that. And I'm a firm believer that to teach it, you need to do it to some capacity. So that's what today is about, is showing the world and showing the universe and putting it out there that I don't just help others grow. I'm here to grow as myself.
Perfect. So I love it when people come on and talk the talk, especially with like other coaches or whatever. I think it's such an important integrity piece that oftentimes gets overlooked. So I know that when you submitted the application to like be on here and all of that, you had mentioned a few different things. So like imposter syndrome, trust, like I have objective data that this is all working and it's all good, but there's a lot of fear that essentially, as from your application, like it drives me to run around like a dog chasing a squirrel, right? So not a
Mhm.
lot of focus And it seems like you're diluting your energy in many different ways instead of focusing it towards the things that actually matter. So that's how I interpreted what you wanted to bring today. Does that land with you? Is that still relevant? Just kind of give me your feedback on that.
Yeah, I think that's bang on. Some of the things that I've noticed since getting into the entrepreneur world, I was not an entrepreneur before this. I worked in corporate for 12 years, and then I had a health crisis and I was off work for 2 years, and then I started my business. Like I wasn't born and raised to be an entrepreneur. My parents, they were as far from entrepreneurs as you could possibly get. I didn't know anything about the world. So when I stepped into it as a new entrepreneur, you are so bombarded with information and things you should be doing. And every guru tells me that I should be doing something different because I want to have $1 million company. And I'm at the spot now where I'm smart enough to say no. I know what I don't want, but it's hard to stay focused on what I do want. I don't even know if I honestly do know what I do want. That's probably like the first problem. Like, to me, what do I want?
So clarity is always going to be an important piece. And we can certainly dive into that. I just want to kind of get the lay of the land a little bit more broadly before we go into that. So you mentioned imposter syndrome, trust, etc. So if we start with those, like how are those manifesting inside of your day to day in the business?
I'm sad a lot of the time.
Mhm.
To be honest, I mean, and this is a very different style of podcast. So I'm going to be try and be as vulnerable because I do want people to know that the CEOs behind a brand are struggling too. And the trust is the biggest thing. And it's not, I know I've lost trust in humanity a little bit being a salesperson, and people promise, yeah, 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 I'm going to sign. And then they ghost you. That hurts in a lot of ways, but also trust in myself, right? Like, did I do something wrong? What happened in my process? Like, what does it say about me? What does it say about my offers? And I'm going between right now, I'm moving between successful sale and successful sale, but everything in between is really, really low. And it's really hard to stay motivated in those low times and then get that spike of adrenaline when someone signs, lasts for about a week, and then it comes back down, right? That's the trust piece, that the imposter syndrome of it. What the heck am I doing? Why am I here? Is it always going to be like this?
Okay. So it seems like there's basically a feast and famine in not just motivation, but also enthusiasm, kind of peace, joy, etc. Like it's kind of dependent on am I getting sales or am I not getting sales? Is that accurate for you?
Yes.
Okay. So like right off the bat, then your sense of peace, your sense of being okay inside is directed by the external. Is
Very
that
much. Yes.
okay? That
As
resonates with
much
me.
as I don't like to admit that, yes.
Okay, fair enough. And I acknowledge and appreciate your honesty because yes, this is more common than not. So is this a pattern that only has come up when you became an entrepreneur, or it's something that's been around for a while?
It's probably been my entire life, that good girl syndrome that most of the women I have work with, and most of the women in the world, unfortunately, especially in North America culture, have. We want to be liked and we want to please everyone. And
Hmm.
when we feel like we're out of sync with that, it's really a challenge. And of course, it's amplified in entrepreneurship because it's not indirect no's anymore. It's direct no's. People will come to you, and in my case, they ghost me in a lot of cases, and I feel like being the CEO has, for people don't see me as a human anymore. And they put me as like, oh, she's just a businesswoman. It's just a brand I'm saying no to. And I'm like, no, my brand is my heart. And when at least just tell me no, like give me the feedback. Why not? What can I do to help? Like what can I do to make it better, to make it a right time? So yeah, it's from before, but it is amplified in entrepreneurship.
110%. I've said this on the podcast many times. It's like if you want to actually do personal development, get into a conscious relationship, have a kid, or start a business, like or all
Did
three.
all
Like,
three within a decade. So yeah.
correct. Like that's the way to do it. It's not by reading a book, you know. So
Hmm.
I agree with you on all those fronts. Um, with regards to what you mentioned about the ghosting, where your brain went to when you were describing that was like, well, or at least I would like to know, like, what can I do better? What can I do to be more better fit? What can I do to make the timing better? So why is it that that's actually about you and not about them?
So here's the struggle I have. My sales calls, and I'm going to toot my own horn here, are awesome. And I get that feedback. When we go through the sales call and I highlight people's dreams and we talk about their goals and what do they want to do, it's all super positive. And then I give them the price tag and they're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense given what you're going to do. I always get this feeling of like, these people are awesome. They liked my offer and it's going to work and they're going to sign, and then they disappear.
Hmm.
And so I I get what you're saying. I know it's not about me. I understand that, but like I get invested in the relationship when I get that kind of feedback, when people are like excited on the call and they book another call, or they say they're going to email me in a couple days and then they don't. It's I mean, we're human, right? We want relationships, we want connection, and that's what many gurus tell us to do, get connection. It's like, okay, but if I invest in the connection and it disappears, it hurts. Does that make sense?
110% makes sense. And and maybe I could ask it a different way because the answer kind of skirts what the original question was. Like basically what you're saying is like, yeah, I intellectually understand what you're saying. It's not about me, but I actually really feel that it is about me. Like as much as I
Mhm.
intellectually understand it's not, it actually kind of is.
Yeah.
So which part of you has a hard time with that?
My heart, like I want to connect with people, and
Mhm.
I want to bring people in that are the perfect fit for my program. And
Okay, so even if you pause right there,
yeah,
by the virtue of the fact that they are ghosting you, are they the perfect fit for your program?
no. I
Okay,
don't want people like that in my program.
right. Yet, this heart part of you, this however you want to name it, for lack of a better term, you can correct me if you want something else, was like the sensitive part. It really wants that connection, even though logically I know it's not the wrong, like I know it's the wrong connection.
Mhm.
So, which part of you has a hard time essentially letting go and allowing what the logical explanation is to kind of take hold?
I don't know. I don't
That's
know,
okay too.
honestly. Yeah.
That's okay. So, what does it mean when somebody says no or ghosts you?
I feel
Or,
like it means I'm not worthy of respect.
okay, I'm not worthy of respect. So I'm just writing this down because it's relevant. So there's a part of you that really craves respect through external validation.
Mhm.
And when it doesn't get it, it starts to essentially freak out. I get sad. I'm in this feast and famine of like motivation and happiness. It's like I need the external to validate that I'm worthy of respect.
Yeah.
Okay. I see you shaking your head. What's coming up for you?
No, I was nodding. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. I'm woke enough to realize that that's wrong. I'm just not. And I said this to my other coach too. Like I'm still very much in this phase of practice of mindset, and I mean I think we are for the rest of our lives. We're going to be practicing mindset. And I know, and I think that's the hard part. It's the heart versus the brain. I know that I shouldn't need external validation, but I have been pre-programmed for 33 years to need it.
Hmm.
And so
Correct.
it's just interrupting those patterns. So yes, I agree with you.
So is this really your adult self popping up, or is this essentially like a younger, more childlike part of you popping up?
It's always the younger me. It's
Yeah,
always the
it
little
is.
girl in me. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I agree. So, and this is very often the crux of the work that I do, which is helping people heal their past so stop sabotaging their present. So, you know, as an adult that you are worthy of respect. Not by the virtue of the fact that any like stranger on the internet is telling you, but simply because it's who you are, it's inherent in who you are. And even if you want to go beyond that, like just the accolades of things that I've done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't what the child part of you actually needs. Like it
Mm-hmm.
at some point didn't get it from the outside. And now that's popping up in essentially adult situations where it's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So before I go on, like what lands for you with that? Does that resonate? Does that not?
I think that's true. I think even as a woman, our voice can kind of get lost, and that a huge part of that is feeling like the lack of respect that my voice doesn't matter,
Hmm.
um, and who I am and what I've been through, they aren't worth anything until someone validates me. So yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And I'm just writing this down. So if you now just look at that kind of broad um tally of some of the things that you have shared here. Okay. So I have this good girl syndrome. I want to be liked. I want to please other people. There's this belief that I'm not worthy of respect, even though intellectually I know that doesn't make sense, but I feel it. And underneath that, there's all this like my voice doesn't matter, my experiences aren't worth anything before I'm validated from the outside. So when I work through stuff like this with people, right, the first place that we start is, okay, well, right now, this is part of your identity. Okay. And my working definition of identity is basically everything you think, feel, and act. Okay. That cumulatively represents your identity. So everything you thought, felt, and did yesterday has accumulated to who you are today.
Mm-hmm.
Simple way to look at this is, and I've used this example many times, the reason that you're not a thief is because everything you thought, felt, and did up until today is one of like an honest, non-stealing human being. You don't have to try and push yourself to not steal. It's just simply a reflection of who you are. So right now, these feast and famine, sadness, motivation reactions are a direct result of who you are being inside of your business due to the accumulated repetition of these beliefs and thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So just before I go on, like, does that at least conceptually make sense for you in terms
Yes,
of where you're at right
absolutely.
now? Okay.
Yes.
And when I'm sharing all this with you, like what's coming up internally for you?
I know there are certain scenarios that I get myself into, certain relationships that I have that foster that belief that my voice doesn't matter. I've done a really good job in the last 2 years since starting my business of surrounding myself with people where that doesn't happen. But there are lingering places that it does. And there are lingering feelings and emotions and memories, even if I don't have the best memory proper, but they're living in there.
Hmm.
And so I can think of specific examples of where that belief is fostered and I come out just feeling sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I acknowledge that because I know it's not easy to even kind of poke and prod around those things because they've been around and part of you for so long, right?
Hmm.
So when we look at that, we really want to zoom out and see, okay, well, how is this actually affecting you day to day, right? So continuously searching for all of this validation, right? One of the things you said, well, the way it affects me is I'm sad a lot of the times. I'm at the whim of the performance of my business. Okay. How else? How else is this affecting you?
Um, I I have multiple personalities. I mean, we all do. My coach just told me that we're all fractures of one thing. And I was like, yeah, that fits. But I see it, you know, in my parenting styles, how I come out of work, who I am when my daughter gets off the bus, how I'm coping. Because if I haven't gotten the validation at work, I look for the validation in my other relationships. So from her, and she's 6, like she doesn't need that weight on her shoulder. Um, I mean, she doesn't. She needs to know that she plays an important role in people's lives in the way she acts and the things she says and the things she does for others. But also she's 6 and I'm her mother. But like my husband too, there's pressure on our relationship for me to get validation in other ways. And it slows us down. And the other thing that I notice a lot is I'm always moving towards the next thing. And I think I mentioned that my coach just reminded me I need to look backwards at how far I've come, and especially within the last few years. So I think that's it's showing up in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And also, again, I just want to acknowledge your honesty with this, because that's 110% where these conversations usually go, especially if I'm working with them with clients. And I just want to acknowledge your bravery to like do it in this type of setting, to be seen in this way, because this is
Hmm.
not an easy thing. So again, kudos to you for all of that. So it seems like right now, a lot of the ripple effects of this validation seeking part of your identity, like it's rippling out into your essentially personal life. Like what's happening in my business is now starting to seep into my personal life. I'm looking for this thing that I don't get in business from my daughter, from my husband, from the people around me. And it's like, I know that shouldn't be happening, but I can't fight the impulse
Hmm.
for it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's accurate for you. Okay.
Yeah.
And what about in the business itself? How do you think this is creating ripple effects in the business itself?
So I've done some pretty good work in the business. I no longer go on Facebook. I've removed it from my phone. I go on there for about 5 minutes a day to check messages, and otherwise my admin is handling everything on there because I did find it incredibly toxic. So I kindly left that environment. The biggest thing I notice is that I and this gives me heartburn, is that I chase people that ghost me. And that
Mm,
bugs me because I still am holding on to the idea that they're perfect for my program, even though, like you said, they're capable of ghosting me. That I don't want to work with people that are capable of ghosting people, that can can do that to another person without an explanation. And I get that it's business in a lot of senses, but when the sales calls are so personal and they're so connected, and I do form a connection, I like to think that goes both ways, that common decency and respect. And so to answer your question, how's it showing up? I'm spending a lot of energy likely chasing people that do not deserve to be chased.
got it. So that's an important one because that's a direct leak of your time and profit.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally chasing people to get validation, which has nothing to do with my actual business.
Hmm.
So in this instance, it's like, well, when that childlike part of us starts to take over, starts to do really funky things in the business, such as this. So it's affecting your mental real estate. It's affecting the actions that you take, obviously the feelings that you feel that drive that. So just out of curiosity, like what percentage of your time do you think you spend doing this?
So on average, I work about 5 to 6 hours a day, and I spend probably an hour, not an hour physically, but even an hour of mental space thinking about, oh, I need to chase this person. I need to send an email here. I need to follow up on LinkedIn here. Probably cumulatively about an hour. So 4 to 5 hours a week.
Right. So basically the equivalent of one full workday for you.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. So that's about 20% of your time, like if you're looking at an hour a day,
Hmm.
spent trying to. So one definition of addiction that I like is trying to get enough of something that almost works.
Hmm.
And that can obviously be applied to, cocaine, to TV, to drinking, to food, to whatever. And it can also be applied to things like this, where this part of me that's so triggered and active is trying whatever it can to get something that almost works. And something that almost works is external validation, which soothes you for a second. But like you said, then I'm on to the next one.
Hmm.
And it continues to loop this behavior that right now is basically getting you to leak 20% of your time on absolutely useless things.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not saying this to like judge or whatever. It's just kind of like holding up the mirror to see what the reality of the situation is. So is this something that's new for you to hear? I've already known this, but I want to look at it, or it's not new at all. Like just where are you at with all that?
It's not new because I've been thinking it a lot especially these last 2 weeks.
Hmm.
I've been getting really tired of chasing people. And but I'm terrified to not chase people. And I feel like it's part of my sales process to like hunt these people down and make them want to write their book, even though I know they want to, but they're too afraid to. And I take on this burden of like, okay, it's my job to convince them. It's my job to sweeten my offer to the point where they physically cannot say no to me. And and then I'm met by silence. And so I know this is a problem. I'm just terrified to let it go. Like addiction, right?
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is,
Yeah.
110%. So in this instance, if that is wasting 20% of your time and it's keeping you in loops of being terrified, okay, what's this costing you in terms of like your actual business?
I think that's the other thing. I don't I don't know how many hours I should be putting into this business. You know, like when you start as an entrepreneur, I came from corporate, so I worked 9 hours a day. And I started my business thinking, okay, I'm going to put in 9 hours a day. And then I quickly realized that is impossible because I don't have the mental capacity to do that. In corporate, you waste 60% of the time. As an entrepreneur sitting alone in my office, I'm productive. I try to be productive 90% of the time. And so you learn that you can't put in the same number of hours as a corporate employee physically, mentally. But I've backed down, like I said, to that 5 to 6 hours a day. And if I took out another hour, do I fill it with something else? Do I just not work that hour? Like, what do I do with that time? I
Mhm.
think is one of the fears.
So, okay, what are you specifically afraid of? I don't know what to do, and that's scary to me.
I think so. I don't know yeah, I don't know what to do. If I take out another hour of work, do I fill it, or do I like is my time better spent somewhere else in the business, or for my mental health, for my family's health, do I back down another hour, and will the business still produce at the same levels?
Mhm. So I'm just going to reflect back to you that in a potentially different way. So right now, I'm aware that I spend 20% of my time chasing people that objectively I know aren't going to be fits. That accumulates to about one extra work day a week. And I'm afraid that if I don't do this activity that objectively I know has nothing to do with anything, I'm afraid that everything's going to fall apart and that also I won't know what to do with my time otherwise. Because the reality is, if you're wasting 20% of your time on something that has nothing to do with anything other than continue this hamster wheel of fear, has no real objective outcome. You literally could just stop working an extra hour and still have the same results. Objectively speaking, I know emotion's not going to feel that way, but objectively
Mm-hmm.
speaking, you could literally take an hour off and still do the exact same thing.
Yes. And then there's also the fear that I FOMO, right? What if that one person that I didn't follow up with was on the edge and then they would have signed with one email? I
Right.
have, in my experience, I will tell like this, it doesn't work that way. If they
Correct.
are not coming back to you, if they are ghosting you, they're not coming back around. I know that, but I still have that fear. Oh, what if they're so close and it's all it's going to take is one email?
Correct. So the interesting thing about this fear is that it is so rooted in scarcity that I don't know if you've ever taken a step back to like really see how much. Because it's like 20% of my time and probably a bigger percentage of my mental real estate is completely anchored in trying to get people that are essentially unavailable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's the dating equivalent of like, all I do is chase people that are unavailable and uninterested because it keeps me in this cycle of like, I'm constantly going. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That completely takes away the possibility that that time could be spent making room, being creative, finding relationships of like my people, like the
Mm-hmm.
people who are the absolute fit that I need to matter to because they want what I want. So it's like there are blinders powered by fear to the possibility of what else could be there.
Yeah.
So what comes up for you with all of that?
I look at it, I like your analogy of an addiction because that's how I looked at social media as well, Facebook particularly, that it's just doom scrolling, right? And I never walk away feeling good. And yet there I am again, 20 minutes later, back in the app. It's the equivalent of like I can see really clearly why I should be off of it. And I can see that my life will be better with it. And it just takes practice and time. So I think if I take nothing else, like I've taken a lot from this session, it's to start practicing letting go. And I think one of the things that I'm doing to self-sabotage myself is in the calls, I will tell people I want to work with you, so I will make it like I will chase you. I literally say that sometimes to people because I feel such a strong connection. Like I want to work with you. I know we can write an amazing book that's going to change your life and change the life of your readers. And then I think it's giving them permission to be chased and not do any of the work.
Well, I would argue that it's giving you permission and justification to chase them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody really needs to give you permission to chase because it's the act of chasing is actually on you. It's not on the person being chased.
Yeah. And that's
So
tiring. Yeah. Yeah.
110% it's tiring. So what is it that you actually want? Like you're very well aware of this pattern. It's costing you 20% of your time. It's costing you a lot of your mental health. It's rippling into your relationships with those people that are close to you. What does the opposite look like? Like, who would you be if you lost this urge to chase?
Freer. I want to be chased. I have never worked or been in an environment. I have always been the one that's readily available, the yes man of the group, right? Of the people that they can come to me anytime they want and they know I'll be there and then I'll follow up on whatever it is. I want that script to flip for the first time in my life. I want people to see what I have as gold because I know it's gold. It's the only one of its kind in this industry. And I want people to, I want to be chased. And I
Hmm.
think that having that feeling, and because I want to be chased ethically. And I think that's
Hmm.
the big thing is I don't ghost people. I've had clients that I have been chased a few times. I should correct. I have been chased a few times and I've had to tell them like, I am not a good fit for you, but I
Hmm.
don't ghost people. Right. And I think I want to be chased knowing that the people they're safe when they chase. Does that make sense?
Define safe under for like
I'm
you.
not going to ghost you. If you really want to work with me and I ethically don't think we're a good match or there's
Hmm.
not space in my programs, I'm going to tell you that. You're not going to email a blank void and never hear back from me if
Right,
you
but you
do want to
already
work.
are that person. Like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
like
like
somebody's saying you
that's my
that, like you would
nature.
already do that. So that's actually like that's part of your current identity.
Yeah.
Is you know how painful it is to be on the opposite end, and you don't want to put anybody through that pain. Like
Yes.
that's I think very obvious at this point.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get at here is you have a very deep awareness of the current pattern, but it's very hard for you to articulate even the possibility of who you would be without this pattern.
Yes.
Okay. So if you took a moment right now and really thought about that, like if I wave the magic wand and tomorrow you could not, or you did not need anymore, you lost the ability to need external validation, who would you be?
I think I'd be a better parent
Okay.
in a lot of ways. Like I said, my bio is I strive to be something that we can both be proud of. And I know my daughter sees it in me because I talked to my husband about this, right? And she's a little sponge and she's listening in all things. And if I could do what I do, if I could write the books that I do, I could coach the way I do, knowing that I literally my books and the books of my clients are changing the world and just have that and that be good enough, I could do anything. Literally, I could do anything because I'd have so much more capacity to tackle it.
Okay. So I'd be a better parent. I would have so much more capacity to build my mission, is kind of what I'm hearing, like build what
Yeah.
it is that I'm about.
And build those, I think you said it, build those connections with the people that
Mm-hmm.
that want me as badly as I want them.
Got it. How does it feel to even just articulate that?
I liked the last thing I said about people wanting me,
Mm-hmm.
people wanting to work with me as much as I want to work with them. That
Okay.
feels really nice.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What about the other pieces that you mentioned? Want to be like, it would make me a better parent to
Yeah.
lose this need for
Well, of course I
validation.
want to be a better parent. I think it's hard to it's very hard to imagine that because I look at how hard I work now and I can't really see a reality where I don't work this hard or
In
feel
for
this
being a
deeply.
better parent or for the business or for both?
All of it,
All of it.
all of
Okay.
it. Everything is
Perfect.
a constant room of improvement.
Okay. So we want to pause you right there because this is how these patterns very insidiously and subtly work. When I asked you, okay, how do you feel just like we started off as like, honestly, I don't haven't really even thought about who I would be if I eliminated these patterns. Like, who's Larissa if she's not essentially people pleasing and looking for validation? It's like I have no real idea, or I don't have as clear of an idea as I do about my
Mhm.
patterns because I'm always in this, I need to improve, right? And then when you sat with that for a little bit, something started to crystallize like, okay, well, actually, this would make me a better parent. I would have much more capacity to build my mission. I think behind that is like, would actually be happier. And then I would also like build connections with people that want me as much as I want them. That last one, while I firmly believe that it is true for you, is also the relief you get from the current validation.
Mhm.
And the reason why I asked you, like, okay, well, which one of like, what do you feel? It's like, well, the one that stands out is the one that's actually giving me relief. That is actually the pattern itself yearning to get that thing that almost works, right?
Mm.
Because it's like basically what you're saying is I can have a happy, like a happier experience with my family. I can be a better role model and, mother to my child. I could have more capacity to be more creative in my business. And that's like this neutral feeling. But oh my God, the relief to just be wanted by the people that I'm chasing, that sounds
Mm.
amazing, right? And this is
Mhm.
how it's going to screw with your head to like look like progress, but really it's just like the pattern itself multiplying in different ways.
That's true. It's a very good point.
Okay. So
And it
what
felt good because it's natural. Like it's what I've been doing.
correct? It's indulging
Okay.
the addiction,
Yeah.
right? So I think the big part for you here is to recognize that there is such a big gap between these patterns that you've repeated for decades and even the possibility of who you are to be free of them.
Hmm.
That I think is your biggest growth edge. So how does that land for you?
It lands really well. I think you've done a fabulous job of isolating it. Um, and pointing out even how like it's what you just said feels like the addiction of like just one more. Or like counter to like let's say I'm addicted to alcohol. I'm gonna switch from alcohol, but I'm gonna put something else in its place. Like,
Correct.
it's like masking it. I think that's very interesting. It's still it scares me, right? Change is scary. But I can see why I want it more. Does that make sense?
Correct. Yeah, it does make sense. So I think
Yeah.
the real kind of last thing to leave off of this, just because I want to make sure I'm conscious of time, is like, do you actually want the change?
I'm sitting with it because my
Mhm.
guts wants to yeah I do, but like I don't want to do an easy dismissal. Yeah
Hmm.
I do. Like an honest heartfelt I do. Like I don't want to chase because I need that validation. I don't
Okay.
want to I do so many amazing things in just who I am. It has nothing to do with anyone else. And that's what books gave me was the ability to flex my own creative muscle and Like, I'm amazing. I know I'm amazing. And I just want that to be enough. So yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just gonna, this is more just to like crystallize it. Because a few of the items you've mentioned is kind of like, yes, I want to change because then I would not experience this bad event of chasing. Cool. I
Mhm.
understand that, like, okay, I don't want that, so I want to change. But it's like, what are you changing into? So why
Mhm.
do you want to change?
I I the looking backward thing was really interesting to me. I'm a future forward person. I
Hmm.
am always thinking future forward. I have 10, 20 year goals that I am shooting for, and I never look back.
Hmm.
And I think I need to look back. I want to be able to look back and be proud of what I have done
Hmm.
and who I have been and become in the process, like just me. And yes, it can be me as a parent. Like, I'm incredibly proud of my daughter and who she is and what she does. But like my books, my business, my brand, these podcasts themselves, they take a lot out of a person. Not everyone can do these types of things.
100%.
And I want that to be enough for me so that I can be proud of me. I can be proud of me.
So why can't that be enough now?
Because
Why does it have
just
to be
be
in 20 years
yeah,
when you've
it
achieved
does.
that?
No, it's not. Sorry, no, I meant like I have like financial goals, like 10 years and 20 years and all of these things like that.
Hmm.
If I could shed it today, if not if I can, I will. And it's just I just need to be conscious of the time and the ups and the downs and the pits and the valleys, right? Like it's practice, and I'm going to practice for the rest of my life
Hmm.
to undo 33 years of programming.
So I want to spend the rest of my life undoing 30 years of programming.
Well, not I don't like no. I mean, yes and no.
Yeah.
I want to spend 30 years being the higher version of myself. The
Okay.
next thing.
That
Yeah.
that that's fair.
Yeah.
And is it possible for you to imagine that you could still be enough and not satisfied with what you currently have? Like still want more, but be completely at peace with what you have.
Yeah, I think that's the golden spot, isn't it?
Correct. It is. And the reason why I bring it to you is when I asked you, okay, well, why is it that you actually want to change? Your brain started going in like I think more legitimate reasons.
Hmm.
And then that slowly morphed into, well, in 20 years, when I look back at all of the things that I've accomplished, then like I can be proud and we can look back as a family and look at all the books and like that's all good and great. And the foundation with which it's built on is in 20 years, when I have stacked up enough of these objective wins, then I can be okay,
Mm.
right? It's a direct reflection of ignoring the fact that right now there's also a part of you that can't, like, it has a very hard time just accepting you as you are right now and all of the amazing things you've already accomplished and letting that be enough to make room for more, which is basically what you were describing when you said, I want to work with the people that want to work with me. I want to be a better parent. I want to have more capacity for my business. Because objectively speaking, like you're actually doing really well. Like 2 years in business, 7 employees, like that's cool. Right. But it's like my brain is so trained to not even accept
Hmm.
that it's hard to fathom what the alternative would be like.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately the crux of all of the happiness that you say you want. That's the
Yeah.
biggest piece of it.
I definitely had the little gremlin voice in my head. Like even as you were talking, I was like, I'll never like I can hear it. I will never be enough.
Yeah.
Like that's my go-to mantra and it's the worst. And I've written about it, I've journaled on it, I've therapied on it, and it's so hard. And but I will say I have weeks where I am hot shit. And I know it. And there is nothing anyone can do to shake my, but then the gremlin voice comes back in, right? And
Correct.
it's part of its hormones too, right? Like I'm a woman, I have hormonal ups and downs, and it's yeah, I know what you're saying, and I am getting better, but I still have work. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And again, I fully acknowledge your open-mindedness to like hear these not so fun things to hear. So
Hmm.
it's not a small thing. Um, anyway, I know we're kind of running to a close as far as like time wise. I just want to make sure Does this clear up like what is standing in the way of the happiness that basically you are saying that you want? Like, are the blocks clear on all of those pieces?
Yeah, I think I hadn't really fully associated why chasing people felt so icky
Hmm.
and what, but yeah, why I couldn't stop doing it. I get now that it's that people pleasing, it's that external validation. So now that I can link it to that limiting belief, it feels lighter, to be totally honest. I can see why stopping one thing helps me, it helps the inside me so much more.
Yeah.
Uh, and to the point, and it was the same with social media. Everyone told me you can't leave Facebook, you can't leave Facebook. Like that's, and I was like, I've never gotten a single client off of Facebook. Like, why can't I leave Facebook? But I had to stop listening to other people before I was like big enough to just do it. And then once I did it, nobody noticed. And I was like, well, geez, that was way overkill.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So anyway, I'm glad that this is clearing a few things up for you. If you want to close us off and just let everybody know, who's the best person to find you, where can they find you? Floor is yours for that.
Yes. So I work with entrepreneurs who are on the same journey as me. We're willing and ready to scale up by making our systems more robust and building in the book. And I always have this analogy that most entrepreneurs, we run our business like a circus. And that is the best definition that I can give of it. We have our monkeys are over here running our funnels, and our elephants are over here trying to do our lead acquisition. And then, we've got all of these different things, and we're standing in the middle of the circus tent trying to hold it up. And what I do is I come in and I look at all of your systems and I say, this is how the book is going to make your life easier. This is what we're going to do. And we swap you, who's been standing in the middle of that tent for the last 2 to 5 years, and you're drowning, and the tent's getting heavier, and the monkeys are running crazy. And we put the book in the middle. And then we build the systems to match your book, and everything just gets easier and lighter. So if you are ready to take it to the next level, you are ready to scale, you're ready to attract more clients because of who you are as a human. That's what we show in the book, you as a human. Not just like, that's what this podcast was all about, is like showing me as a human, because that's what our people want. They want to know that they're connecting with humans, and that I'm hoping that helps people with the ghosting problem. So if you want to work with me and you're not going to ghost me, you can reach out. Our website is nextpagepublishing.net, and you can find information about our book camps that we host every month. You can find information on our seminars. I have my own podcast that you can listen to, blogs, basically whatever, however you like to digest your information. We've got it at nextpagepublishing.net.
Love it. Well, as always, we'll include all of that in the show notes. And Larissa, thank you very much for allowing yourself to be seen in this way. And for us listening, we'll see you on the next one.